This is Jay Martin.
You talked about the economic models we've seen, and we touched on this in our first interview. We've seen the rise and the fall of a true socialist economy with the Soviet Union, the rise of a true capitalist economy with the Americans, and China runs a kind of hybrid model, socialist, capitalist, and that you could look at that today and say this seems to be the winning formula because for the last 40 years, this economy has been a rocket ship. My question for you there would be, but 40 years isn't that long of a time. And could it be that as hot out the gate as China's been since the early 1990s, without the democratic self-correcting mechanism that slows growth in the short term, but maybe preserves it in the long term, do we need more time to tell if this has the longevity over more than a 40-year time period? Is it too early to make that call? Professor, what do you think?
Well, normally I would say, yes, it's too early. It's not enough. I mean, I understand your point. Normally I would say, yes, that's the way to understand it. But the problem is what you count as enough time is not an absolute. It's not measured in, the passage of so many calendar days or weeks or months or years. It's measured in part by what goes on in a society. And that's where the Chinese are so remarkable. Yeah, 40 years normally wouldn't be enough. But what they've accomplished in their 40 years is so overwhelming. I mean, let's be clear. They made a move from abject poverty to being a superpower literally capable of competing with the United States, something which took Britain 4 centuries, took the United States arguably 2.5, and they did it in 40 years. So we are looking at something which normally, 40 years not enough. And look, I can't predict the future any more than anybody else can. I have no guarantees. But from 40 years, looking at it, wow. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. The kind of questions that I come to with your approach just now, which I think is perfectly reasonable, go like this. What happens to the human brain when you put people through a transition in that short a time? Because we're still, human beings. We have muscles and brains and cells that take time to digest the food and process what comes into our eyes and our 5 senses. And I wonder to myself, parenthetically, I'm married to a psychotherapist, so these kinds of questions are part of my life. I wonder what it means when you learn that in one generation, hundreds of millions of people stopped being agricultural, rural in their lives to become industrial and urban in their lives. This normally reorients notions of husband, wife, parent, child, male, female, older, younger, educated. How is all of that amount of change affecting the human beings one by one in their relationships, which in the end will, as I think your question suggests, have its effect? So let me put it another way. They've done unbelievable in their economic and political organization, their urbanization. Look at their transport systems, the rapid trains that tie every corner of China together. I use the American training system. It's 100 years old. It's 100 years behind the Chinese. I mean, it's staggering what they have done. But I wonder, will there be in the years ahead a kind of blowback into the consciousness, the mentality of the Chinese people as each man, woman, child, parent adjusts, let's call it, to the structural changes, will the Communist Party that has led all of this and deserves the credit which we can't in America give them, but they deserve the credit for something which the whole world will have to acknowledge sooner or later, will they survive? Will they have unchained a process they cannot control because it's working its way out in the minds and personalities of 1.5 billion Chinese by this time? So those are the questions about time and how what they've achieved can react and develop their society. And look, they may end up showing us in the decades ahead another level of stupendous achievement we can't even guess at yet, because they have so original a problem for their people to process. And by the way, if we had a sane world, if the kinds of conversations that were announced yesterday taking place in Switzerland between high-level officials, if that were a sign, which I'm not sure it is, but of a different mindset, then we might look at the world and feel much better about ourselves globally, because these two giants, the old empire and, quote unquote, the new one, might be actually getting together to learn from each other, to help each other navigate their different economic problems going forward. That would make me, and I think an awful lot of other people, feel a lot less anxious and a lot more hopeful about where we could be going.
Most investors think they're playing it safe, following mainstream advice, chasing trends, and clinging to the herd mentality. But there is nothing safe about mainstream advice. The smartest investors know that real wins come from thinking independently and spotting opportunities long before the crowd. And that's what we teach at the Commodity University. This is an exclusive membership designed to arm you with the skills from the sharpest minds in the mining investment world. Each of our professionals has a proven track record of finding trends before anyone else. At the Commodity University, you'll gain access to a highly curated and growing catalog of courses covering what you actually need to know to become an informed commodity investor. Every single month, you'll receive a brand new course packed with insights from the best in the business, giving you the edge to stay ahead. If you're tired of following the crowd and ready to invest smarter, think sharper, and understand the mining industry like the professionals, then take the next step and join the Commodity University today.